something about you, all about taxonomy, determining relatedness among organisms, and its evolutionary relationship. So when we say taxonomy, it is the classification of organisms. So for simpler or for easier retention of what's inside the taxonomy, I'll be giving you a mnemonics called which says King David came over for good spaghetti. So with this mnemonics, K D C O F G S, King David came over for good spaghetti. So king, or the K, represents the kingdom. D represents division, or in other term it could be King Philip, or P for phylum, division or phylum, that's still the same. C is for class, O is for order, F is for family, G is for genus, and lastly S is for the species. So in taxonomy, those mnemonics are under the classification stage of taxonomy. So in taxonomy, we have remember these three essential things in taxonomy. First is the classification. So when we say classification, it is how we differentiate, classify, and arrange the organisms. So in classification, we classify them according to their kingdom, and the kingdom to species, distinction. Yes. For the first is the classification, and I have tackled that already. So the next is the nomenclature. So when we say nomenclature, it is the arrangement of name to a certain species or organism. So in nomenclature, we follow two. So in assigning first name, we use the genus, while on the second name, we use the specific epithet. So that's how international, Carl was implemented or have used that method in assigning names. So when we combine genus and specific epithet, the first name and the second name forms the species name. And lastly is the identification. In identification, it is where we make sure if a certain species belongs to a taxa or group, or it has to be identified or classified first if it is not identified. So that's the three essential things we need to be familiar with in the taxonomy. Now let's move on to the determining relatedness among organisms. So with this, we use the rRNA sequencing. So what does it mean? So in rRNA sequencing, for simpler explanation, if one prokaryotic, take for example, if one prokaryotic cell which contains 16S R DNA, when it combines with the other prokaryotic cells which has also 16S R DNA, if they have stronger bond, or if the DNA are a lot similar, then the more that they are related to each other, or there is a chance that they are related to each other. Meanwhile, if they are less similar, then the lesser chance or the lower chance for the for the organisms to become related to each other. Another thing is the phylogeny. So when we say phylogeny, it is the study of the evolutionary relationship among organisms. So why is this important? So phylogeny help us in identifying, classifying, and assigning of names for a certain organism or species. Because if we are able to trace back the history of the evolutionary relationship between organisms, it would become easier for us to classify, identify it, or group it into which taxa they belong. And I just want to share this to you about the LUCA, the LUCA, or the last universal common ancestor. So in this with this last universal common ancestor, it deals with the concept that from one single cell, it formed or created three basic domains of life. So from one tiny single cell, it resulted into three basic domains of life, namely the archaea, which are the first form life here on this earth. Archaea, which usually existed around 3 to 4 billion years ago. Next is the bacteria, or the prokaryotes, which occurred after the domain archaea. And in bacteria, it existed around 1.7 or 2.7 to 3 billion years ago. And next is the eukarya, or the eukaryotes, which has a more complex structure of its cell compared to the prokaryotes. So when we combine prokaryotes and archaea, we'll be able to form